This is The Process Shot. I'm Michael, I'm stuck in a fever dream, and I've seen The Happiness of the Katakuris, a surreal Japanese musical horror comedy from 2001, directed by Takashi Miike. It follows the titular family, whose members are marked by dysfunction and failure, working at a bed and breakfast and waiting for a road expansion that will bring guests and tourists right to their doors. However, their first wandering guest decides to kill himself overnight, forcing the family to hide his body to avoid any negative attention from the cops. The next pair of guests also die overnight, again pushing the family into covering up this evidence. As the Katakuris try to figure out why this is happening, they also come to question what is more important for them, the safety of their business or the togetherness of the family. Or, well, it's something like that anyways. It might not sound too unusual from that description, but that's obviously only one part of how all of this plays out. The story takes this premise and finds ways to treat its most serious aspects with as little respect as possible, and for the most part it does this with musical numbers. They make for a severely light contrast with the actions of the family, catching you off guard with every new song that kicks right in. It's obviously unusual, but it does in fact start to become normalized after some time, or at least the idea of the film being a musical doesn't feel odd. I think it's helped by how they're fitted into the story, whether it be as dream sequences, exaggerations of actual events, or in one or two cases, something like a psychological moment of exploration. Of course, even when that's the case, the film doesn't take itself seriously, and all of these scenes are continually imbued with a sense of fantasy and parody. There's even one song that puts karaoke lyrics on the screen, adding another layer of humor in its own tongue-in-cheek treatment of itself. It does seem like an appropriate way to tell this story, which comes off like a moralistic tale about learning or confirming the strength of family bonds even in difficult times. Every member of the family has some sort of struggle or conflict, and by coming together they learn how to forgive each other for their mistakes. It's a simple message, and the events in the story tend to overshadow it, but I'd say that it's actually pretty wholesome when you ignore the part where people are dying. Anyways, the technical and artistic design of the film are probably most especially where the surreal aspects take the forefront. Again, the musical numbers are where the most amount of visual style are found, taking a radically different approach to the film's imagery and almost outright reveling in its artifice and silliness. The goofy stylization in these scenes don't always extend to the main film, but they do still have their share of playing things up for the camera. Cinematography and editing are well used within the film's tonal changes and working with whatever's best for a scene, whether it leans more into the horror or the comedy aspects, though more often than not it will just shift right between the two on a whim. There's also a great amount of claymation at several points, completely cementing the fantastical heights of the story with that explicit sort of surreal storytelling. I'd say that when you combine that with everything else, the movie ultimately feels as if it's like a satirical crossing between a children's show and a soap opera, delivering life lessons and homespun wisdoms while being faced with concepts of death, criminality, and good old-fashioned guilt. The Happiness of the Katakuris, Takashi Miike, 2021. 4 stars. I'd say it's worth a watch. You might get put off by it, but that's your problem. That's it for this review. If you liked it, leave a like. If you have something to add, leave a comment. Subscribe to the channel for more reviews. I feel like I talked more about the music in the film than anything else. Probably because that's one of the few things in the movie I can talk about and people would understand off the bat. Not that I would blame them if they didn't get anything going on here. Well, maybe I would.